I wrote on my paper God, because as I was rereading it, I was reminded that the bondage that many people in this country, in this world, particularly Black people, the chains of bondage and slavery are directly linked to the chains and bondage of that Bible. And I'm gonna say that with my full chest right now. In the way in which religion has indoctrinated us into a hope for a better tomorrow and an afterlife, and not calling on our quote unquote better angels in this life to tap into our humanity in this life, to see one another in this life as brothers and sisters, which I think was the message when she, her daddy was a pastor, and and she's being baptized. Now, I don't want to give away too much, but and she's questioning everything, which is something that I challenge everyone here to do. To ask yourself the question that was asked in this first book. What is God to you? How does God show up for you? And I thought that was just asking that question could free a lot of people, because I think a lot of us mindlessly follow something that we can't even define.
One of the things she does on that notion or that question about who is God or what is God, and she sort of breaks down all the things that God is not for her, right? And she was like, for some people, it's the daddy. For some people, it's the king or the benevolent benefactor. But what if God is none of those things? What if God doesn't really know you at all and just was the person who created the product and then backed away? And the idea that the only thing you could rely on is change, I think for people who have been indoctrinated in the way that you speak about or that you just mentioned, the idea of one, loosening the bounds of this benevolent white father God. And I'm going to say white because we traditionally, if we have a Black Jesus in our church, it is a form of resistance. It is certainly something that has to stand up against the indoctrination that sees Jesus or God in some other way. But if we are talking about a God who is really only concerned with change, that's at once really frightening for people who have come to rely on this sort of interpersonal relationship with my best friend Jesus and God, as I know in the Christian tradition, into one that says, well, maybe Jesus is not your biggest fan. Or maybe God is not your, and I keep defaulting to Jesus, that's my own Christian indoctrination. Maybe God is not your personal super fan rooting you on and willing to forgive any and all wrongs that you commit. Maybe God has given us the ability to be gods on our own or in collaboration and in community. And perhaps by recognizing that that might be the faith and our ability as the God mirrors here on earth to do something different than hope and pray for some outside intervention, but to really think about who is the God within us that we are supposed to be tapping into so that we really can manifest here on earth the heavens that we're all supposed to be striving for.
All the finger snaps to that, the whole idea of shaping change and shaping God that are so central to these earthseed tenets do separate them quite a bit from what I will call just sort of lazy faith, which is, well, these words were written thousands of years ago by somebody who thought they were being inspired by God, so it must be true. While not noticing that there are passages about stonings and there are passages about slavery, and that Jesus never said anything, not a single word about homosexuality, but he did have some words about divorce. I guess that's inconvenient. So there's a tendency in lazy faith to pretend that your biases are actually God's biases based on a few words here and there, right? Just that you can just sort of just mix your biases in there with this idea of a stern judge who stands over all and will only forgive you under a very specific prescription. Whereas Earthseed kind of reminds me of like my grandmother. She was AME, but she was also Baha'i, right? And in New Orleans, you also have people, yeah, I'm Christian, but I also practice some Vodou, right? So you mix, and Earthseed is one of those religions that you can incorporate within whatever your personal faith is. I mean, it's not that there aren't some contradictions. This is not the eye is on the sparrow God in any way, shape, or form in Octavia Butler. This is not the God who's, like you say, rooting you on, watching your every move. It's a God you shape. And in order for you to allow yourself to feel that you can shape God, you do have to recognize that God within you, that person within you who can create change and accept change. And both of those things are very important. I think the fact that the only lasting truth is change is like the most memorable of the Earthseed passages, is because it is just that powerful. That's what got me past the Trump election the next day. When I was dazed, I was like, how, what, how? And then I remembered the only lasting truth is change.